Hey everybody, it is Wintermute coming to you from the think tank, and today we are going to cover Japan's doctrines. So they have a couple specific to them, but a lot of these are kind of repeats. And so, with that in mind, air reconnaissance, amphibious armor, armored cars, those are all kind of, I've mentioned before. Dedicated scouts. You may reroll all failed scout missions once. So that's a Japan specific one. Diffused production. When rolling damage for strategic bombing against factories, subtract 1 from the total of each die to a minimum of 0. That's a Japanese specific one. Veteran officers, this is just like the one for Germany. You get veteran points for each unit, excluding militia, lost that turn. Elite training, that's just like the German one. You can pay to put units into training, make them elite, and then bring them back out. Escort cruisers, just like the one for America. Cruisers, light and heavy, gain 1 anti-air attack hitting on 3 or less during the first round of naval combat. Gliders is the same as all the others. Island tunnels. All islands which started under Japanese control now also benefit from the dug-in defense bonus. There I was playing with a kind of an existing bonus they have, and I should probably do that with most of the nations and see if there isn't a way to make some of the existing benefits they have a little more interesting or a variation. I haven't done that thoroughly yet, but that's just one that came to mind. Because I know they had very strong defenses on all those islands we had to take, not just the home islands, but and then. Press service. Once per turn per city, you may reduce the cost of any facility built or being built by 1 so long as that facility is in a city land zone or adjacent to a city land zone. So you're basically just pressing segments of your population and or having volunteers from that population just reduce the cost of your facilities in and around the cities. That's not Japan specific. That I also have that one for the USSR. I know that. And then there's prototype research, and this is just like the one that I explained for the Commonwealth and then for America. They also have shock troops, which at the start of each turn, 1 infantry class unit, excluding militia, may be given +1 to its attack value for the duration of the battle. And then tactical initiative. Increase any ground unit's attack or defense value by 1 when performing a mission. Again, not many that are specific to Japan, but some that are very specific to Japan, like them and theirs. Again, if anybody has any ideas about some of these that might be applicable, because they understand how Japan's tactics worked or certain things they did that maybe weren't common knowledge, that, oh, hey, you could do this, please feel free to shoot me an email or put them in the comment section, just to be able to kind of flesh this list out. Just because that would be nice. That'd be nice to have more input. So that's really it for Japan. I don't have many more to add, or much more to add for them. So we'll kind of just leave that as is, and people can comment as they see fit. And the next one will be, I'm going to do USSR and Italy in the same one next. Actually, you know what? Yeah, Japan was short. We're just going to move on to Russia. We'll do all 3 of these. USSR doctrines. Now, some of them are very specific to them. At all costs. Once per combat, you may choose 1 unit which has not already been taken as a casualty to reroll its attack or defense roll. That unit is then removed as a casualty. Fortified factories. Any successful siege factory mission against you must be rerolled. Additionally, when defending a land zone with an undamaged and unseized factory, you gain 1 additional defense die per factory, which hits based on the size of the factory. So a minor is 1, medium 2, and major is 3. So anything equal to or less than those, depending on what kind of factories you have present, would score additional hits when defending. Hidden air bases. Subtract 1 from each damage die to a minimum of 0 when dealing strategic bombing damage to your air bases. Gliders, just like everybody else. Maskarova. After an opponent's combat move, You may choose up to 2 land zones of yours which are being attacked. You may move 1 unit from each of those land zones into an adjacent land zone, or you may move 1 unit from an adjacent zone into each of those land zones. Okay. Now, Maskarova is the Russian word for, I believe it's masquerade or deception. I cannot remember the exact translation. But the Russians, and I'm just clarifying what that is, because the Russians were very good at concealing and confusing Germans with your unit movements, and that's kind of what that's what that concept is here with this, is that you have the ability to move units around after their combat because you're kind of out intelling them. Basically, you're outmaneuvering them. You're confusing them as to where your units really are. So there's that. Paratrooper operations. The first airborne unit built each turn costs 1 IPP less. Press service. This is just like the Japanese one for press service. Once per turn per city, you can reduce the cost of any facility built or being built by 1, so long as that facility is in a city land zone or adjacent to a city's land zone. This one, Rolling Barrage, is one I opted not to go with. And then Scorched Earth. When an opponent takes a land zone from you, reduce the amount of IPP they receive at the end of the turn from that zone by 1. And I do need to clarify that that's 1 turn only. That only lasts for 1 turn. Now, that's kind of a throwback to the ability they had in 2nd edition where you got no IPPs. Now, I really think that was a real difficult thing for the German player to overcome. So again, they're going to be paying points for this ability this time, and it's not quite as potent. So those are the USSR doctrines. Again, I'm sure there are some that will make it onto this list from the others. So that's USSR. And then Italy. Now, man, Italy was really rough. Some ideas I had for them had already been kind of used in other expansions, like some of their special operation units showed up in the special operations expansion. So there was that, which was fine. But so I had to really, really, really think about what would work for them. And I'm still not sure with all of it. So the first one is armored cars, just like all the others. Better leadership. Italian land units may pair with German land units on a 1-to-1 ratio to gain +1 to their attack and defense. Yeah, and they did do better once they had German commanders there telling them what to do. Black shirts. We all remember black shirts from 2nd edition. Well, I want to see them have a comeback. May build 1 black shirt unit per turn. Attack 2, defense 2, movement 1, cost 2, infantry class unit. So yeah, this time they're limited to just 1 per turn if they take that doctrine. Gliders, just like everybody else. Mountain Home. The first infantry unit you build each turn costs 1 less IPP. Now, the next two... Well, okay. Let me save outdated artillery and weak infantry for last. Shock troops, that's just like everybody else's. Tankettes. The first light armor you build each turn costs 1 less IPP. Mountain tactics. When defending a mountain, land, or border zone controlled by the Italian player, and there are more Italian units defending than any other nation, the attack penalty for the mountain terrain is increased to -2 for all land units on the first round of combat. Additionally, any successful Seize the Passes mission missions by the attacking player must be re-rolled. And then the last 2 are probably the ones that are historically accurate and are arguable. It's arguable whether they are a benefit or a burden, but I think they're beneficial because Italy's economy is so poor to begin with. So and they did have weak infantry, and they did have outdated artillery. So with outdated artillery, your artillery unit attacks and defend at 2 and costs 3 IPP. No changes to advanced artillery units. And then weak infantry. Your infantry units attack and defend at -1, so they would be 1/3s and cost 2 IPP. Your militia units defend on a 1 and cost 1. Whether those two will work out mathematically to be either too big. I think outdated artillery is fine, as it is. Weak infantry makes me worry a little bit about just militia popping up everywhere because it becomes so much cheaper, even though it sucks. But I'm okay with the infantry units attacking and defending at -1 for 2 IPP. But then obviously there's no reason to build militia if I don't adjust the militia stats. The advantage to this is it gives them more units overall. It frees up some, because they don't have a huge economy to start with, some of their build breakpoints for costs should become a little bit easier with these being less expensive. Because sometimes you're like, okay, well, I've got 10 IPP. I can build 2 infantry and an artillery. Well, under this way, that would cost 10. If you have both these doctrines, then they would actually cost 7. And now you've got 3 extra IPP to spend on something else, even though the units you're building are not going to be good in the long run compared to the other units around them. So I'm just a little worried about the math for these two maybe not adding up in the long run, and maybe it being too abusable, or maybe there needs to be some sort of cap on it, or maybe I just need to rethink how I do it. So with that said, that's Italy. And Italy was the hardest one to come up with. And I am sure that there are things that need to move over this list. I think like depth charges and things like that, like most of these nations will end up with that on their list. And like I said, I'm still hoping to get some feedback from players as far as additional ideas for naval doctrines, and or air doctrines, because the land doctrines I think I understand fairly well. Some of the strategic doctrines I understand fairly well, historically speaking, and I've at least got a grasp on how I would like to see them implemented, even if I admit it's not 100% yet, and we still got to kind of fiddle with it, play test it, things like that. So there we are with that. That's Italy, that's Russia, that's Japan, and that goes ahead and finishes out the initial wave of doctrine ideas. So I'm going to wrap up this video now. I'm going to do one more video about a couple core concepts that I want to address in the expansion, and then kind of go from there. So this is Wintermute, signing off from the think tank.